The Emerald Cove retreat was a shimmering paradise of white marble and turquoise water, hidden away on a private island off the coast of Florida. It was the ultimate sanctuary for the world's most untouchable billionaires, a place where they could plot corporate takeovers and hide their illicit wealth far from the eyes of the law. The owner was Victor Sterling, a ruthless tech mogul who controlled half the world's digital infrastructure. Inside this high-tech playground, a woman named Clara worked as the pool and spa maintenance technician. At 52 years old, with sun-weathered skin and hands calloused by years of physical labor, Clara was an invisible part of the scenery. She spent her days skimming leaves from the infinity pools, checking the chemical balance of the luxury saunas, and scrubbing the salt spray from the glass balconies. To Victor Sterling and his head of security, a massive, arrogant man named Hunter who led a team of former elite special forces, Clara was nothing more than a pool girl. Hunter took a sadistic pleasure in making her job a nightmare. He would often dump a gallon of motor oil into the main pool just as she finished cleaning it, laughing as she had a drain and scrubbed the entire thing in the midnight heat. He mocked her simple life, telling the guests that Clara was a bottom feeder who would spend her whole life cleaning up the sweat of real men. Once, Sterling himself dropped his diamond-encrusted watch into a deep, dark filtration tank and forced Clara to dive in and retrieve it, mocking her when she came up shivering and gasping for air. Clara never complained, never showed anger, and never looked him in the eye. She just kept her head down, her face a mask of quiet submission. However, the pool girl was a master of psychological and tactical warfare. Clara was actually Major Clara Riptide Thorne, a retired Navy SEAL and the former director of the military's most secretive underwater sabotage unit. She was a woman who had survived the deepest pressure of the ocean and dismantled nuclear threats in total darkness. She wasn't at Emerald Cove for a salary. She was there because Sterling had orchestrated a cyber attack that had crippled a U.S. naval fleet, leading to the deaths of several of Clara's former teammates. For 8 months, she had lived in a small, damp shed on the edge of the property, playing the role of the invisible servant. Her pool chemicals were actually high-grade liquid explosives and signal-blocking agents, and her skimmer was a custom-built directional microphone. She had mapped every underwater intake pipe, every biometric lock on the island server room, and every frequency the security team used. While she was cleaning the pool, she was actually planting microsensors that gave her total control over the island's high-tech water and power systems. The situation turned into a lethal game on a humid Friday night when a young waitress named Sophia accidentally overheard Sterling discussing the sale of a stolen government encryption key to a foreign buyer. Hunter caught the girl and brought her to the edge of the deep-water dive tank, intending to silence her forever by making it look like a tragic drowning. Clara was nearby, scrubbing the deck for the next day's sunrise yoga session. Hunter saw her and decided to involve her in his cruelty. He handed Clara a heavy weight belt and told her that if she wanted to see the next sunrise, she had to be the one to weight the girl down. He laughed, telling Sterling that the old lady was too broken to care about morality. Clara stood there for a moment, the heavy lead belt in her hands, looking at the terrified Sophia. Then she stood up straight. Her shoulders broadened, her back stiffened with the posture of a Tier 1 operator, and her eyes turned into cold, dark voids. She looked Hunter in the eye and told him, in a voice that sounded like the crushing depth of the Atlantic, that the tide was coming in. Before Hunter could even register the change in her voice, Clara moved with the explosive speed of a professional assassin. She didn't put the belt on the girl. She used it as a flail, striking Hunter across the temple with enough force to send him crashing into the marble deck before he could even reach for his sidearm. The nobody was gone, and the Riptide had arrived. She pulled a microtransmitter from her pocket and spoke a single word, floodgate. Instantly, the entire island's security system went into a catastrophic failure. The electronic gates jammed, the floodlights died, and the high-pressure pool pumps she had rigged began to flood the server basement with salt water. Clara reached into a hidden compartment in her cleaning cart and pulled out a suppressed pistol and thermal goggles. She moved through the darkness of the retreat like a shadow, using the very water she had tended for months to dismantle Hunter's security team. She manipulated the high-pressure misting systems to create a blinding fog, picking off the guards one by one with a terrifying, silent precision. The elite mercenaries were screaming into their radios about a ghost in the water, never realizing it was the woman who had been skimming their leaves that afternoon. By the time Clara reached the penthouse, Sterling was frantically trying to board his private seaplane. She didn't fire a shot. She had already disabled the plane's fuel lines while checking the docks earlier that day. As Sterling begged for his life, offering her billions of dollars to let him go, Clara simply looked at him with the cold indifference of a judge. She told him that the people he considered bottom feeders were the ones who saw everything, and tonight he was sinking to the bottom. She triggered a remote broadcast on the island's main antenna, sending every bank account, every chat log, and every video of his crimes to the Department of Justice and every major news network in the world. As the sound of Navy SEAL helicopters filled the night sky, Sterling was left shivering in his silk suit, his empire destroyed by a single click. As the sun began to rise over the Florida coast, the pool girl was nowhere to be found. Sophia, the waitress, was safe and being protected by federal agents. But the woman who had single-handedly taken down a billionaire's fortress had vanished. Clara had already changed into a plain cotton shirt and jeans, driving a nondescript boat toward the mainland. She had a new identity, a new mission, and a new location already in her sights. To the world, she would always be a nobody, just a face in the crowd. But as long as the powerful and corrupt thought they could treat the lowly people of the world like trash, Clara Riptide, Thorne would be there, waiting in the shadows with a skimmer in one hand and justice in the other. If you enjoyed this story of justice and hidden power, hit that subscribe button to join our community and never miss a mission. We bring you the best underestimated hero stories every week. Thanks for watching.